to the Rift. It is ZDZ picking up the Zeri's first pick, as we do have the Elise, the Vi, and of course the Ashe banned away by the side of BLG. The Nidalee Kindred, a lot of jungle focus coming out here for Shun on the side of AL.
Yeah, a lot of target bans coming out of AL. I mean, it does narrow Shun's champion pick. I just casted curse at this. He's picking Maokai for the first time in this split. He's finally dropped the ego, and he's going to adapt to the meta by touching some grass and picking this Maokai blind. Xiaohao has always been that person that I would say is the most consistent out of AL. He either has 100% impact in the early game, or he has completely no impact in that early game. And we've seen a lot of his Lee Sin as well, but I just feel like he needs to just, if he is on a champion that is scaling, he just needs to play it safe, because I think AL is just struggling to get anything rolling when it does come to the early levels. But of course, all of these scaling options going towards the side of AL. Zeri, Yuumi going to get locked in, and Ryze is currently being hovered. Ryze going over to the side of AL. I think this champion has a really high win rate in the LPL currently, where I believe it's around 60. So this might be a really good start for the side of PinZ, because he has been probably the most consistent player out of all five.
And again, it's just kind of one of those things. I think you're absolutely right. I think he's 41 game played or something. That's 61%, 25 wins, 16 losses. I just got confirmed with our stats team, aka me. Yeah, it really has been a thing, and especially for PinZ as well. He's been very solid on this pick. It has worked out exceptionally well for him and his team when they've been able to get their hands on it. The Lucian Nami Maokai combination, on the other hand, however, is explosive. If Elkin On can get rolling on this combination, we just know how much this Lucian can do. And now, with the jungler picked in for BLG, no jungler for AL, we are starting to see Xiaohao getting these target bans towards him. He's now on the other side of this one. And actually, as I say that, both teams are prioritizing those jungle bans. So we're actually going to probably see 6 jungle bans so far in the 10.
I mean, Xiaohao still has the Sejuani and Vi available. He also likes playing the Wukong, so I'm not too stressed for Xiaohao just quite yet. But BLG getting their hands on Lucian Nami once again. I believe they played it 7 times already. And looking at their statistics for specifically Elk, he only has a really high win rate on this Lucian compared to these other champions like the Zeri and the Siva. I believe Ashe is 100% win rate for him, but it just seems like this is such a big comfort pick for the side of BLG, and handing it over is a huge mistake. The Jayce is going to get hovered for the side of BLG. Really good response into a scaling pick like the Ryze. You get that early lane priority, and it just does relatively well. And I'm really scared for Ksante blinds nowadays, because Sion is becoming a very, very strong pick in the meta.
Sion, we've also seen quite a few of the top kind of carries as well, like Fiora coming into it. And with the Maokai jungle for the side of BLG, I would not be surprised to see this Jayce maybe be a little bit of a flex to Yagao as well. So you have to keep that in mind as we come into the final few picks. You've got the Zeri Yuumi, of course, for AL. You've got the Ryze, the Ksante, exceptional scaling right now from the side of AL. The one thing I would love just to kind of wrap this all in a lovely little bow, I was just to say a little bit of engage. The Sejuani covers that very, very nicely. And they're front to back, should they get to 2.5 items. It's terrifying now coming in for BLG.
Yeah, I mean, this team comp getting locked in by the side of AL, a lot of scaling with the Zeri and Ryze, and of course, a really good frontline provided from the Ksante and Sejuani. I often see them opting into very hard scaling compositions, but I'm afraid that they need to stabilize the early game. And just the scariest thing is that Xiaohao, like I said, he is that inconsistent player where he pretty much determines the outcome of the game in the first 10 minutes, so he needs to play really smart.
Well, they were hovering over the Gwen for a while there, but the end of it is going to be Bin on this Gnar. I do like it as well, because yes, you do have the Maokai and the Nami for a little bit of engage, but their ultimates are slow. They're kind of a secondary engage after you get that big kind of setup. So the Mega Gnar does very well into that. Decent poke coming out here from the side of BLG as well, and they've got some fantastic early game should they be able to utilize it. And this is the thing with BLG that we've seen pretty much all split, is that they will go ham at all times. They are looking for early advantages. So right now, this is just about kind of surviving for AL. They need to get this Zeri to a point where she's able to kind of
comfort is key. And something really freaky about Yuumi and Nami getting nerfed on patch 13.1b is that LCK still picked it on the new patch. So I'm just afraid you can take the Yuumi out of the game, but you can't take the Yuumi out of the players.
Yeah, well, can't take the cat out of the bag, but can definitely throw it in the river if you want to, as we jump onto the Rift to see how this game will end up panning out. Of course, it is a best of 3, so this is only game 1 of 1. Obviously, I got very jarred there as our top overlay is obviously changed. Obviously, there are tech issues with the overlay earlier on that they can't be able to fix, and that's why we have backups, Kitty.
It's okay. Well, the backup for AL is to not explode in this early game. You have the Ryze, you have the Zeri Yuumi in that bottom lane, and you have so much engaged tools coming out of AL, so you're just trying to look for those 5v5 skirmishes once you do hit the middle of the game. But of course, BLG is going to challenge that by forcing early plays with the Lucian Nami available, especially when they hit their 1-item spike. They're going to look for those early objectives like the Herald and the Dragon when they are available on the map. So AL just needs to know what to give and what to fight so they don't opt into terrible fights where the game ends at 20 minutes.
No one really wants to lose the game at 20 minutes, but we'll see what ends up happening as the early stages kind of come about. Not really expecting too much from the junglers right now. We're both seeing them start on the red side of the jungle, so they're going to be pretty much on opposite sides of the map for whenever when it kind of happens here. Level 2 hit here by AL. They dropped an immediate exhaust, which is cleansed away. And I was going to say, I don't think the Zeri Yuumi is going to be able to kill anybody, but they can definitely be a nuisance.
Bit of aggression coming out of the AL bot lane, especially SwordArt just being attack Yuumi and going up and putting the exhaust down, which does burn a cleanse, so Xiaohao does have a lot of freedom when it comes to these 3v3 skirmishes now that the Lucian doesn't have a combat summoner. But this is exactly what I want to see. Red buff Sejuani challenging the enemy jungler in his own jungle because you have just so much dual opportunities.
I mean, when you don't have the blue buff here for the Maokai, you take a hell of a lot of damage. You can see him trying to just kind of keep himself alive without having to use a summoner. He will survive in that endeavor, but he is not coming in to contest this side of the jungle anymore. And this is Xiaohao, as you just mentioned, just being a much stronger jungler at level 3 than the Maokai.
Yeah, I mean, the Maokai is forced to base and loses his own blue buff. I mean, with the Gnar pushing in, I think Maokai can potentially look for the enemy blue, but it's going to be really tough because he is now a camp behind. But of course, we see a lot of aggression coming out of the Zeri Yuumi lane, which is pretty shocking. I think Lucian Nami should be able to fight back their lane priority once they do hit the level 3. But now with the Sejuani, you see him there after the duel with the Maokai. It's fine to play a bit more safe in that bottom lane. But Maokai, you need to go for that blue because you can't just get rid of your camps without a blue on the tree.
No, you really do need that mana regeneration. But honestly, it's just smart play coming out from anyone's legend. They recognized they had priority in bot at the time. They had push in mid. Plenty to kind of come out here as we see, ooh, 2 summoners traded there for the side of anyone's legend. Very, very aware that they could get all in on, so not going to happen. And the blue buff will not be taken. Shouldn't prioritize the Scuttle. So Xiaohao going to be able to confirm pretty much all of his topside camps as well. And like I said, it's a tough time right now to be a tree.
It is a very tough time, especially for your first time playing Maokai in this split, but Xiaohao having a very good early game. He is going to triple buff the enemy jungle on the Sejuani, having a lot of a level advantage when it does come to that. So he's going to hit 6 significantly a lot earlier compared to Shun, which is that level 6 spike, and you can start forcing plays around the map. And these early dragons, the Maokai needs to have his ultimate available to contest.
Absolutely. Even if you're trying to just encroach or, you know, kind of get on top of an objective like that, the AoE coverage that it gives you, the zone potential with that ultimate is just huge. So we'll see now BLG just taking their time with this early game, not really, you know, gaining or losing anything apart from obviously in that jungle position, but shouldn't mean too much in the grand scheme of things if they are able to kind of stabilize the tree back again. Pushing bot lane goes in favor of BLG as now Xiaohao looking to try and be a nuisance once more. He has skirted around Vision very nicely, but it's difficult to really see how he would really make this one stick. Unless you can get a flash from Yagao, that could be the difference maker between this mid-fight.
Yeah, now that camps are offline for both junglers, they do want to just look for a fight on either side of this bottom side of the map. Shun does hit level 4 finally, and he is still 2 camps down compared to the Sejuani, unfortunately, but not a lot of action, which is extremely good for the side of AL because you are that sailing team comp that wants to avoid those early deaths so you get your items online earlier.
Well, level 6s are being hit now by solo laners across the board as we wait to see what really happens here. And this is where the game starts to get a little bit more tenuous in that top side. I know you said And you were rightfully so. There's no one really going to die. The Gnar and the Ksante is just a wet noodle fight for the moment. But with level 6's hitting, and of course we know how powerful that Ksante can be with that all out, so want to see maybe if the the Bin goes a little bit too far forward, that maybe there's a punish coming out from ZDT, or vice versa. If Bin can get a good bit of CC off, they can stun lock him away from those, getting the dashes out. So right now we are just waiting to see what is the real kind of moment to set off this this powder keg of a fight.
Yeah, and if a 3v3 does pursue in this bottom side of the map, we do need to remember that Pinsy has his Realm Warp available now hitting level 6. So with the Jayce basing and having not good tempo to join these fights, you gotta just play it safe for the side of BLG. Just gotta let Maokai watch his camps get taken away, unfortunately.
Seeing the Ryze roaming down now. Realm Warp is available, so they might be able to overload here on the bot side. Very difficult to do with a cleanse and all flashes available. Now, the mid laners and the junglers going to find themselves with a bit of a 2v2 on the bot side. Barrier used alongside the exhaust, but cleansed away as well. So a 2-for-1 in terms of summoner trade. Shun now gets a nice smash back there to make sure he does not get caught up. I say that, he's going to have to flash away because he knows he will just be run down here by this Ryze, and you can just see the power that Sejuani just brings you right now. Just the constant CC if she gets her stacked up passive on her W it's just too much for you to really deal with.
Yeah, I mean, now that Xun doesn't have that flash available, it's just gonna get so dangerous for him if he does ever get caught like that once again. But we saw a lot of summoners being spent in this bottom lane, where I believe 2 got used for the side of AL, but now with Jayce picking up this serrated dirt, he's going to have a lot more danger when it comes to these mid lane 2v2s. Xun is just not going to have a fun time in this game.
No. He's lucky there was a blast cone there, because that Realm Warp was directed towards him. And honestly, we are seeing maybe a little bit of a reasoning, like you said, towards why we don't see Xun on this. Oh, go stop myself. Xiaohao
he has the ult available.
Got his ultimate available. Yeah, they're going to try and get on top of him. He hasn't used his flash just yet. Flash for flash, and Yagao sidesteps it, but I think it's going to be enough anyway. They have the Ruin Prison, they have the damage, and they have first blood.
You know what? As long as it works, we don't care about the process. AL picks up first blood, and the Sejuani ultimate was burnt as a result of that. They do get the flash of Yagao, so that play can be repeated later on into the game, but the first blood goes into Pinsy's hands. And on a scaling pick like this Ryze, he's just going to get that roll available so much earlier on into the team fight. So Yagao places a pink ward here and just gets scouted out by Xiaohao, which is pretty greedy because you did have information from the Maokai earlier that the Sejuani was invading the red buff. And of course, although it dodged the Sejuani ultimate, she just has so much follow-up, you just can't escape her hands.
Just cannot be done. As we wait to see now what's going to happen with the response from BLG. They are starting to gain control on this bot side. It is not leading to any kind of significant advantage just yet, but it is going to be AL pushed back off of this turret. And I will say, I think the big thing is that maybe Yagao didn't anticipate having the level 6 for the Sejuani because Xun wasn't level 6, but got to remember the earlier play where he lost his blue buff and basically all his bottom side camps. So yeah, not a great timing on that, unfortunately, for the mid laner of BLG. And AL find themselves a good start to this game. No dragon taken just yet. The Rift Herald is on the field as well. Yagao in a little bit of trouble. We are going to see the ultimate come out here from the Maokai just to try and stop the Sejuani from moving forward. But now, Xiaohao is very isolated. No flash, nowhere to go. I feel like once you see the Maokai, you should back away.
I mean, he already committed too hard. That's just the life of a Sejuani. Once you go forward, there's no backing out. But I think he forgot his Ryze only has the Catalyst available in his item slots, and they just don't have enough burst out of the Sejuani and Ryze combo, especially when you don't have the ultimates available. Even if that play was going even, we saw the Lucian and Nami having push first, and they were rotating first. So that play was just never going to work out for the side of AL. Things were going very smoothly for anyone's legend, but with that death going into the hands of Yagao, that does bring him back into the game, and Yagao with these items online is just gonna be a very big problem when it comes to those mid-game skirmishes.
Yeah, you gotta be very aware of the poke that can come out from a pretty fed Jayce, but both junglers having an assist, both mid laners having a kill, means that the gold is almost identical to each other. As we see now, Dragon traded for the Rift Herald, and it has been a much more tempered start from BLG than we were probably expecting, especially considering how they've been playing most of this regular split. So curious to see what will be the next point of contention here for the side of AL. As they're, honestly, as we said in the draft, they're very happy to let this Zeri, this Ryze, this Ksante just get up to a couple of items, then look for fights.
Yeah, I mean, now with the Jayce picking up his Eclipse, I would more be more than happy to be playing this more 5v5 mid-game skirmishing team composition when it does come to BLG, because you've been finding so much success with the Lucian, Nami, and of course Jayce in the middle lane. But you just can't make too many mistakes to let AL scale to that 3-item spike where Betty is able to come online and just kill everyone with the little cat attached. Pinsy not having the flash available, Shun is trying to make something happen in this middle lane. Jayce has his mythic available, so it's going to look really, really dangerous for Pinsy.
Yeah, Bramble smash down, knocks you all the way back. That is as easy and as clean as you like. Having that multiple different damage front of the magic and of course the attack damage does end up doing a hell of a lot of favors there in that mid game, and of course BLG gladly take themselves the kill.
Yeah, although Shun's early game went very tragically for a Maokai, still 10 CS down, he is able to find pick. He is able to come back into the game pick after pick, especially with the Maokai ult available, which is why Maokai is such a OP pick this meta, because you just have so much force. You pretty much cover the entire lane once you press that ultimate ability, similar to 5 Sejuani ult, if I wouldn't lie myself.
Yeah, not too different from it as excuse me, we come now towards the next real objective, which is probably going to be this dragon in 3 minutes time. Of course the Rift Herald will be roughly on the same timer. And we wait to see where these two teams want to try and put their priorities. Right now, it does look like Xiaohao kind of making a nuisance of himself in that bot side, but without the vision and without the security of their jungler, it is very, very difficult. But look at it already. You can see the gold for the kind of carries on the side of BLG, definitely kind of giving them a little bit more favor, as Shelly does get dropped in this bot side. Should just be the one plate. Does not give 2 anymore, so that's not the greatest of Rift Herald plays ever. And it looks like BLG are going to be able to cover it on the bot side as well.
I mean, this Jayce is already becoming such a problem when it does come to the poke before these major objectives. But like you saw on the graph, Yagao was sitting at the very top, very pretty on this Jayce. And I'm afraid for AL, when it does come to these team fights or 5v5s, no one is really able to outrange the Jayce, and with your Ryze still of course sitting on that catalyst, trying to buy the roll, but there's going to be more action in the bot lane.
Yeah, we are going to see the final chapter put out is the tidal wave to answer. They flash in, they get the Bramble smash. The Yuumi has detached because she's saying, look, I'm a cat, I am not loyal to anybody, I will go to whoever feeds me. And that was not the Zeri right there.
Betty, all you have to do is survive the early game. There's no need to force all these plays, being the proactive side for Zeri and Yuumi, of course burning all 4 summoners in this exchange, and of course yourself dying as well. Pinsy is going to ult in. I think ult does fall as a result of that, although Pinsy doesn't pick up the kill. But it does end up being a 1-for-1 trade. The kill does go over to the Sejuani, however, so it's not as worth for the side of AL. But like I said, you're playing scaling champions. You don't need to go for those plays, especially when you don't know where the Jayce is. He was rotating first to that bottom side. You just don't do it.
Yeah, just straight up don't do it. It's exactly as you say. Like, you know, Shun gets himself behind enemy lines here, and then it's just such a strange setup again. You know, it's a good exhaust. It actually comes out after the cleanse, but a bubble is, yeah, that's the big thing. The bubble is the big changer there, and you're losing all of your summoners there, and the value that you have with the Yuumi kind of loses its value a little bit more because you can't have that exhaust and heal to help you out later on in the fights.
Yeah, Elk does overstay a little bit, greeding to get this wave pushed in. I'm assuming he wanted his mythic gold, but Sejuani missed the ult again with the Ryze TPing in this time around. However, it is going to secure a kill on Elk because his summoners were burnt from the earlier 2v2. But like I said, now with all the mythics available for the side of BLG, Lucian and Nami picking up this Gale Force and Mande, and with Yagao sitting on so much gold, the mid game is looking very dangerous for the side of AL already.
This is the time of the game where BLG should start to flourish. This is where they should start to come out and really put down the hurt here on top of AL. As the next dragon spawns in 10 seconds, I don't think AL is going to be looking to try and contest this one here. I will say it's a pretty late soul if we're looking at it in terms of the traditional early souls that we usually get. Only 5.5 minutes. First dragon is a pretty setup here, but no cleanse at the moment on the top of Elk as he tries to move forward here. Xiaohao sitting off on the side. Need to be very aware that you don't exactly have the purest of vision control around this mid lane, and Elk does not go any further. I feel actually, honestly, if Yagao had hit that accelerated shock blast, that may have been an over contest.
I mean, with the Gale Force available for Elk, he could have just eaten and pretty much one-shot Betty without the flash on the Zeri available, of course. The two dragons do go over to the side of BLG. The ultimate's coming out.
There we go. That's a good bubble onto Xiaohao that stops him moving forward. He gets hit by the tree. It's water, it's earth, it's all of Mother Nature working against AL right now as they just can't make anything stick.
I mean, the Lucian does try to force once again because, like we said, the Betty burned his flash from 3 minutes ago in that bot lane 2v2. With the reinforcements coming out of Pinzi and, of course, the jungler, they weren't able to execute. But BLG looking a bit desperate, trying to find those mid-game skirmishes. Ultimates coming out of Pinzi, flash out of Yagao. Not as bad. I think this proactiveness is nice from the side of AL, but like I said, just this Jayce not being able to shut down and you get that bounty gold into your own hands, you're never going to be able to challenge the Jayce's range in these team fights.
And that's the big thing we're looking at right now, is that with the Ryze and of course the Ksante, you will have to get up close and personal. Smite away by Shun there. As I was gonna say, like, oh, he might have another one for the Rift Herald. He doesn't. He just kind of made sure that Xiaohao thought he did. As we can see now, moving towards this mid lane. Xiaohao looking for something, but without any real follow-up from his team, it's not really going to happen, as he is waiting for his ultimate to come off of cooldown. Rift Herald down to about 600. He does not have smite. I don't know. Did he get it there? I believe he did, and now they can try and look for fighting here.
Stole it.
Did he? No, BLG just about got it. Yeah, just about.
Jesus.
But yeah, that was risky.
That was risky. I mean, the two junglers were kind of just staring at each other for a good 10 seconds. It's like, you want this, bro? Nah, I'm taking this. The Maokai ult does come out as a zone, and this first mid tower goes to the side of BLG, but throwing it back to Yagao not having this flash available, I think Xiaohao should just consistently play towards the side and stop Jayce from getting that CS and scaling even further into the game, because you can't just do nothing on the map, even with the enemy team already having that existing lead.
I mean, it's a 3,000 gold lead for the moment. I will say that Bin and ZDZ have just been playing PvE for majority of this game. They've just not been involved whatsoever. And that's kind of fine. I feel like Bin is very happy with that setup. He's got himself about a 15 CS lead. He's now got a Triforce. Yes, first items are being pretty much completed across the board, but it is the Lucian who's getting ahead. It is the Lucian who's getting himself on the 2.5 items. And now, have a look at how close this one was. Does he get his smite? I think he got his smite just in a second, as that was very fast of a replay.
That was very fast. I didn't get to catch most of that, but obviously the Herald did go towards the side of BLG. Still
Speed replays, go!
And the first tower went to the side of BLG, so that opens up the map a lot more, especially when you do want to be looking for these mid lane skirmishes like here. Betty lives on 1 HP. So unfortunate. I think he missed one of his ultimate little bursts. I think he could have 100-0'd him, but of course with the Immortal Shield Bow coming out clutch, Betty gets to survive death once more.
Well, ZDZ looking to see if he can take a 2v1. Sorry, never mind. It's a 3v1. He's looking to try and get his all out over to the other side. The Realm Orb comes out. A flash used as... Or sorry, no flash used. A Ghost was used by ZDZ. Now a TP coming in here. That's going to be Bin with almost fully mega. He flashes forward! Bin gets a huge knock into the wall, but can they follow it up? Yes, they can. They find the Ryze. They're looking for ZDZ. They can get one more kill. It would 100% confirm themselves the Baron. But actually, I lied. The Baron's not even spawned. It's 30 seconds away.
Like you said, Oisin, Bin has just been playing PvE this entire time, but he comes in and he gets a 3-man ultimate onto AL, and that's exactly what you need as a top lane when it comes to impact in 13.1. But huge ultimate, like I said, getting his hands onto the carries of AL, where Pinzi falls as a response. But I didn't get to see where the Sejuani ult was used. He didn't have it available when we cut back to the play. I think he tried to catch the Lucian off guard when this was happening, when ZDZ was 1v3ing in this topside jungle. I'm trying to look at the minimap because Sejuani is obviously trying to look for a pick onto Elk here, but he misses the ultimate and Elk just gets away scot-free. So that's already 2 ultimates unavailable for the side of AL, and you're in a choke up against Gnar, which does turn mega, and he just gets the perfect ultimate onto all of the teammates of AL, and really huge team fight coming out of BLG, and exactly what you're trying to look for in these mid-game skirmishes.
I mean, this is, again, the power of the Yuumi is that they had those extra summoners, they had the extra heal, the exhaust, the barrier, then, of course, being able to be used by Betty kind of saves that play from being bad to a hell of a lot worse. But Dragon is spawned on the Rift. It is only a Chem Rift, but you are 2 away as BLG from the Soul. Definitely something that Bin would love to have as we get later on into this game, but AL looking like they want to try and fully contest this one here. You can see just how powerful BLG were in that last fight, but they did use an awful lot to try and make that fight work. So right now it is just everyone on AL moving forward, but with this zoning ultimate of the Maokai, you can push forward and be very annoying. They get a lot of damage here on the ZDZ, who gets just peppered down here by the culling. Good tidal wave, and it's slow, methodical, and on with the ebb and flow, crashes into the ZDZ Ksante. Now Pinzi, he's got nowhere to go. He's going to try and maybe use that phase rush to maybe keep himself alive, but On is feeling it, and On secures him and his team another kill. 7-2. It's a 6,000, probably going to be about 7,000 in a minute gold lead. BLG in total control.
Oisin, that was the fight that AL needed to win to deny the Dragon Soul point, but unfortunately you're just 2 behind in gold, and the side of BLG just has all those items online, especially with the Jayce finding these angles to poke out the team earlier, and of course Maokai having such a strong presence. Even though he had a terrible early game, this champion is just broken in the current patch, and ZDZ just tanking the entire Lucian to start the entire fight, of course. And yeah, just AL is just trickling one by one when it comes to these team fights. You had to challenge the 5v5, you had to be the ones engaging onto them, but if you play into the hands of BLG, this is exactly what happens. And I don't see AL having another angle to scale back into the game, because you're up against a Fed, Jayce, and Lucian.
Yeah, that is a 3-item Lucian and a 3-item Jayce. They are terrifying with the amount of work they can do. I will say the poke should be mitigated relatively by the Yuumi healing coming out, but right now the BLG are declawing this cat very well, not letting them have anything to do in this game. And Sean had a bit of a rough start on this Maokai, but those ultimates, it's just again, time and time again, we're seeing why this champion is picked, because it's just so oppressive. That was AL honestly ticking all the right boxes, putting themselves in all the right places to contest that dragon. But then the ultimate comes out from the Maokai, the tidal wave comes in. There's just nothing you can do. You have to retreat.
Yeah, it does take up the entire bottom side of that jungle, and like I said, AL needs to be the one being proactive with the Sejuani ult coming out, which they can potentially do here because we see the Gnar CSing in that top side. So you want to force a 4v5, or else you're not gonna win these 5v5s later on in the game.
No, you are not. Spin is in mini and hasn't built up any mega so far, but does have a TP and is pushing out that side wave. So this is just BLG slowly but surely closing all the doors that are available to BLG. To AL. They're slowly making themselves known and saying, look, all it takes is one little overstep, just like that. 2 autos, slightly empowered, I will say, by On, but that is still disgusting coming out here from Elk.
3 items online for both the Jayce and the Lucian of BLG. I don't know how Betty is going to survive these all-ins once they do pull the trigger. I think Xiaohao is just waiting for a very slow death as these inhibitors go down. And of course, Bin is just being a little menace on this Gnar and pressuring the side as well. Just force a 4v5 when the Gnar isn't here, or else you're not going to have enough time.
I mean, you're just death by 1,000 cuts. Here we go. They're going to try and find an engage here. Yagao flashes away, though, after getting hit. The final chapter does basically nothing. And now an awful lot of your engage options are mitigated at best. They will just try and back themselves away. They have not taken the inhibitor in mid lane just yet. Hinzi just so much work. The 2 auto attacks again brings him down to just about above 1/3 of his HP. But with the Baron on the board and everyone needing a couple of resets, it looks like BLG have done the work they wanted to do.
Elk is getting a little bit too frisky with the ways he eases in, so he's getting a bit, I would say, excited. But of course, Dragon is a very viable win condition for the side of BLG now that they are sitting on Dragon Soul Point. Baron, of course, available on the map. However, with AL being pushed in both top and mid, it's going to be very tough trying to find this vision control and even contest the 5v5 when BLG does threaten it.
Wait to see, and it does feel like right now, just the way the game is going, it's not been an explosive game. It hasn't been BLG absolutely outplaying AL. It's been a death of 1,000 cuts. It's just been slowly building them back and breaking down summoners, taking off health bar. Is Shun now using his ultimate, seeing if he can catch somebody out. Yes, he does indeed. They're going to use a tidal wave to try and stop Yagao from getting engaged upon it. Xiaohao trying his very, very best. Bin on the backside does get exhausted as ZDZ. It's the top laners dealing 4v1 on both sides, but ZDZ finally falls. And again, more and more we're seeing it, just little bits and pieces of them kind of taking them out. PinZ does not have a flash, so he will fall as well. It's only 2 kills, but AL, they're running out of options.
I mean, BLG just had a flank from top and bot side where Bin was occupying 3 members of the side of AL. And of course, ZDZ tries his little heart out to try and at least get Elk in that team fight for a 1-for-1 trade. But there's just not enough damage coming out of the side of AL, where these scaling champions, they fell too far behind in that early game, and now Baron's going to get threatened for the side of BLG.
It's not going to be threatened, it's going to be fully committed to, as they're going to be able to confirm that for themselves. Dragon not spawned just yet, so they should be able to get their reset off and run themselves straight back out onto the map. That would be sold. You can see Betty moving towards it. They are TPing as well, but 2 TPs for BLG. They want to give nothing to AL.
Yeah, AL has to go for this Dragon right now. You have a 20-second angle, but I think they already started it way too late. The members of BLG are making their way back here.
Yeah, there's no jungler for BLG just yet. The Dragon's not going down quick enough, though. As you can see, Elk moves forward, forcing ZDZ back. There's a combination of the ultimates that we've been talking about all game. Sejuani's dead. ZDZ's in a lot of trouble. He should be able to get that Realm Warp just to safety, but again, it is the Chem Soul now for the side of BLG. They have just dominated AL. There was one moment, I think, in this game where we thought maybe AL had an opportunity, but outside of that, it just wasn't to be.
Yeah, and that was the early game. I think Xiaohao could have obviously done a lot more in this game. He was having a lot of presence in the jungle, specifically when it did come to those early invades, but 4 dragons going towards the side of BLG, and I believe Herald as well. AL, that was the last fight, but can you really fight for your last breath of air before the Nexus falls?
I mean, they're drowning right now. BLG are just keeping them under the water. They can't get themselves above the surface, and just look at the damage. 2 autos, your Immortal Shield Bow gets popped. And there's just not really a lot you can do about it. The burst from the Lucian Nami is so disgusting. As we finally see now the mid lane being coerced in. They get the inhibitor down there. They've got super minions kind of coming in. Top lane's working in their favor as well. It's just little by little, bit by bit, BLG just tearing AL apart. Bin looks like he might would want to go for something there, but taught against it at the very last second. He's going to try and build up his mega once more, but AL, you got to go for something, because if indecision is a decision in itself.
Yep, I think losing is also a decision, because this game is looking very, very hard for the side of AL to really fight back as a chance. Mid lane does get pushed in with the Baron empowered minions. Yagao is just way too strong, where you can't do enough damage to shut down the carries of AL. I believe Betty was getting one-shot by Bin as mini Gnar, and Bin comes in for the 3-man ult again.
Yep, gets himself a 3-man ultimate. This is just BLG padding the stats a little bit, taking down the Ksante. Double kill goes over to Elk. Maybe even a couple more. They were looking towards maybe diving the fountain, but it was slow, it was methodical, but it was BLG all the way.
I wouldn't say it was slow. That was a pretty fast game, especially when you had the Jayce and Lucian online so early into the game as well. AL did put up a fight, and I've been saying this for the longest time. I think they have a decent early game, but you have to just translate those that early aggression and the kills into more than just kills. Like I said, the Sejuani just having so much presence around the map, where Maokai pretty much got triple buffed earlier into the game, but 4 dragons going towards the side of BLG when your Zeri and Yuumi were winning the bot side was a bit questionable, and I think stuff like that just sliding through just snowballs into a big fat loss for AL once again.
And I mean, look, it kind of exactly what we talked about coming into this particular series is that ZDZ's a little bit disconnected, not quite working with the team. It all feels like they can go for something, but they don't ever really get it to stick. And it feels like the different day, same issues for the side of AL. For BLG, I like that they went for a little bit more of a kind of like, we could just beat you with better picks kind of composition. They weren't looking for ego. They obviously, the Nidalee and the Kindred were banned away by Shun, but he picked up the Maokai, has got a win on it. Did have to suffer a little bit in those first few minutes as he got invaded, but did just kind of show the power of this pick. And again, we're on 13.1, so this is still the premier jungler in a lot of people's eyes, particularly, in the LPL, because they have got such value out of that, having that AP flex.
Yeah, ever since Maokai safely hit level 6 and got his Demonic Embrace in his item slots, he was just having a comfortable time when it came to those 5v5 5v5 skirmishes. But I need to highlight that Elkin on once again on this Lucian and Nami 8 times in a row this split. And this combo or this duo being so comfort for the side of BLG, I think as AL, you just have to drop the ego and ban this out because, of course, Zeri does have the upper hand when it comes to the win rate. I believe it's like 15-9 or something. But if you can't pilot the champion in the early game and you're going to suffer immensely where the lead snowballs and lets Elk do this, then I think it needs to cop a ban.
I mean, you can just see it there that there's just no damage coming out from the side of BLG. It's that no one was really doing enough to try and even, you know, equate themselves. I think everybody except for On did more damage than anybody else on the side of AL. So it is really just that big issue of the kind of company. And honestly, we said it coming into this one that these are the champions that I would say that AL, even in the 1 or 2 games they've won in the series they've lost, they've looked the most comfortable on, they've looked the better of in terms of these situations, but it just hasn't really come together today. And this is a bit of an issue now in AL. They got to find something different. They got to try to do something else because it's just whatever it is right now, it's just not working.
Yeah, I mean, even with Xiaohao having 100% KP in that game, I just think he wasn't forcing enough, especially when you got Yagao's flash earlier on onto the game. We saw that he attempted to try kill Xiaohao a second time, but unfortunately, overaggression is a very real thing, and he fell into the hands of Yagao, which did become the start of that snowball where Yagao was able to do so much damage in those teamfights, and I believe picking up clips around the 11-minute mark. So it was just a very dominating performance on this Jayce. And I just feel like Xiaohao, like on this Jayce, on the Sejuani, I mean, of course you want to play aggressive in that early game, but I think the Ryze in particular, that champion just didn't work as well in terms of aggression paired up with Xiaohao.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that we saw the Lee Sin ban coming in as well from the side of BLG. They're very aware of Xiaohao to kind of, you know, get those more